When it comes to the next gen Xbox, we may not have Halo, but we have Halo. We are about 3 weeks or so, give or take, from the next generation console launch from Microsoft and, well, Sony too. But if you are buying an Xbox Series X or S and you're trying to figure out what game am I going to play, well, we've got some answers for you that might just make things a little bit better, because as we all know by now, Halo Infinite will not be arriving on launch day. But there's a big but here. If you are a Halo fan, there is some goodness coming down the pipeline, with Microsoft announcing today that the Master Chief Collection is going to be getting a pretty significant update around November 20th or so, somewhere around there, that is going to enable 120 frames per second, up to 4K resolution, and the games are fully optimized. And don't forget about Auto HDR as well. So you might be able to unwrap your new console and not pop into the new Halo game, but you can fire up your classics and get a phenomenal experience. Actually playing Halo 2 at 120 frames per second is going to bring back some serious nostalgia. I already enjoy playing Halo 2 on occasion, and doing it at a buttery smooth 120 frames per second is going to be just phenomenal. Now keep in mind, you might need a certain type of display, and your old monitor may not actually work at that resolution or that frame rate, so you're going to have to do some checking on your own to see if that is going to work out for you. Now, if you don't want to play Halo and you're thinking, I want to play some new games, well, there are a couple titles that you are going to want to check out. The most notable, which is almost always a billion-dollar blockbuster for Activision, Call of Duty Black Ops, the new one, Cold War, is going to be 120 frames per second, and it's going to be optimized. I think that's where a lot of people are going to be entering into the next generation consoles for that higher fidelity, is with a classic Call of Duty game. Now, if you're not planning to play Call of Duty, there is another title that I'm actually very excited to play. The Falconeer looks pretty darn interesting from a more first-person, single player, I should say, campaign perspective. I think it looks like a lot of fun. I think that game might be, I think it might be my new Ori, right? I generally sit down and plop down and play Ori Will of the Wisps, which also, by the way, is going to be updated just for some casual gaming, but I think that might be it too. If those don't fit your boat, or float your boat, I should say, you can also look at Gears 5, Dirt 5, Devil May Cry 5, everything has a 5 these days. Exomecha, we got Metal Hellsinger, we've got Monster Boy and the Cursed Kingdom, you've got Orphan and the Machine, you've got Rainbow Six Siege, which I know is a very popular title and also coming to Game Pass, by the way. So if you're a Game Pass subscriber, that is going to be an awesome way to take advantage of that if you have never played it. And Second Extinction. Those are the titles that we know of as of the recording of this, that you should be willing to check out when the new consoles do arrive in a few weeks. Now the other question is like, hey, what should I be doing now to get ready for those new console launches, if I could enunciate correctly? One of the primary things you should honestly just do is just get an external drive, download and put all your junk onto that you want to move over, and then you're going to have to copy it over to the new console, depending on how you're going to play the game. But that is going to be like the number one thing you're going to want to do, because if you plug in your Virgin console into the internet and you're just going to say, hey, I'm going to play, but you have to download all those games, well, there's going to be some bad news, because it is going to take a while for all of that content to download. So just prioritize and strategize about how you want to move your content over from your existing console box over to the new one, because you really, really don't want to be downloading all these games again, especially Call of Duty, which we already know is going to be a massive download to begin with, and that's a whole nother story in itself. So just kind of start thinking about how you're going to do that. And also just keep in mind that you need a proper display that's going to support all the features. HDMI 2.1 is also a priority. So if you don't have an HDMI 2.1 enabled device, make sure you understand what features are and will not work with your next generation console. That way you're not disappointed and you just kind of fully understand how things are going to go. All that being said, there are definitely some titles that look like they're going to be launching around that time. Obviously, the backwards compatibility is going to make things a lot easier, especially as we wait for all of the studio titles that Microsoft is working on right now. They've got, 23 studios all working on next generation content, and we've got to wait for all that to start to materialize to see how it's going to shake out, with fidelity of the graphics department. So there you go. The titles I'm personally going to be playing. I'm going to be playing a lot of Call of Duty Black Ops. I'm really curious to see what they do with Warzone, because that is honestly what I'm going to be playing the most, and that better be getting 120 frames per second, which brings up another conversation. You're more than likely going to have to choose between, at least as of right now, from what we understand, in certain scenarios, you're going to have to choose between 4K or 120 frames per second. So in my personal opinion, I always choose frame rate over resolution, unless you're playing like like a slow game where, you know, resolution makes a big difference. But in Twitch shooters like Call of Duty, I always prioritize FPS over 4K resolution. We'll have to see how it shakes out, because if it's end up being 4K at 60 frames per second, maybe we will see, because we definitely want to push these consoles to their limit. So with that being said, guys, there you go. Master Chief Collection coming in at 120 frames per second is going to be a big update for a lot of people, because those titles are still very popular. I'm very excited to play them. We've only got a couple more weeks.